I'm Bill Zamzow. I was in University of Wisconsin chemical engineering for 2 years, and then I gave up my student deferment and got drafted in 1944, and was in the chemical warfare company, and we set up equipment in Alabama and then went overseas to New Guinea, spent 3 months waiting there, and went up to Manila right after the Japanese were defeated. And we set up our equipment there. And my father, I knew, had been he enlisted as an officer in the Seabees, and he had been in Hawaii for 18 months. And he had been transferred someplace else, but I didn't know where. And one day he showed up at our company area in Manila, unannounced. In 1945, my father had enlisted at age 44, and he was in the Pacific, and I was in the Pacific. And we got together in the Philippines. He was just a few months too young to get into World War I, and he was very patriotic. He wanted to serve his country, so at age 44, he worked hard to enlist. His wife wasn't too happy about it, but he went off to service and was in there for 2 years. The war ended, and he came back home. He was able to find out where I was. I couldn't find out where he was, but he came and we spent a few days. He was stationed on Samar, which is south of Luzon, and then I got transferred to headquarters 8th Army, and they had an office in Leyte, which was near Samar, so they put me on temporary duty to Leyte, and I had orders to fly down there. I flew to Leyte, got off the plane and asked how I could get to Samar, and they said, well, there's a plane going down the runway getting ready to take off. It's the only plane of the day. So I went racing after it, and they got me on, and I flew Samar, which was a short distance away by air. And I got off the plane and got to the highway, and the first vehicle along picked me up, and I said I wanted to see the company that my dad was in, and this was a vehicle from that company, and he knew my dad, of course, and he took me right to him, and I spent about 4 days there, and while I was there, the first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, which complicated my getting back to Manila because I had orders to fly to an airfield near Manila, but all the planes were going up to a field about 50 miles north getting ready for the invasion of Japan. People had the radio on, and we couldn't believe how big the bomb, how many tons, the equivalent it was. It was a rather exciting time. Well, they figured it might mean the end of the war. That was a hope. In New Guinea, we were served as labor in various warehouses, moving cases of food around for whatever was needed there. In Manila, we were just running laundry equipment for the hospitals. Then I got transferred to headquarters of the 8th Army and had an office job there, typing and filing and things like that. And then went up to Yokohama shortly after the armistice. A little concerned about how we'd be treated there, but the Japanese people were very docile. They followed the emperor, In New Guinea, we were at Finschhafen. It's an interesting town name. It's got 5 syllables in a row. But we were along the coast, and it wasn't a fairly narrow area before the mountains started going up. And we didn't see any natives hardly ever, except sometimes they were being transported by truck for some reason or other. And the edge of where we lived, the mountains went right up, and we found we could go up a ways, and there were waterfalls coming down and pools we could swim in, and we thought that was great. Then we learned that we shouldn't do it. There was something in the water that would give us a disease of some kind. Most every evening we could play volleyball. It was hot, but it gave us something to do. And we had a number of U.S. shows came while we were there, and Irving Berlin was headlining one of the shows that came to our area. I went back home in Madison, Wisconsin, and went to the University of Wisconsin 2 more years, and I got a bachelor's degree in chem engineering, and I spent another year and got a master's in chem engineering, and then I went off to work.